Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to start a conversation, the faster it dies? You say, "Hey, how are you?" and within seconds, it's over. Meanwhile, someone else walks into the same room, says only a few words, and suddenly everyone listens. It's not that they're better looking, funnier, or more confident. It's something deeper. When they speak, the air changes. Their words have weight. And the secret isn't about talking more. It's about saying less, but meaning every word. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years ago. Presence is far more powerful than performance. Today, I'll show you 6 simple phrases, and one mindset, that will make people naturally gravitate toward you, without pretending, manipulating, or performing. And the 4th one is the most misunderstood of all. Principle 1, tell me more about that. For simple words, but they open doors most people never even see. Imagine someone says, "I've been learning guitar." What do most people do? They turn the moment into a competition. "Oh yeah, I played guitar in college. You should try this method I used." Suddenly, the focus shifts from the other person to themselves. The door to connection closes, and the spotlight returns to ego. Now imagine you simply say, "Tell me more about that." And then you stop talking. You listen, not to reply, not to sound smart, but to truly understand. That's where real connection begins. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for someone who genuinely wants to listen. When they finally meet that person, they never forget it. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Listening is not passive. It's presence. It tells others, "You matter enough for me to be silent." When you speak less and listen deeply, people don't leave thinking, "That person was so interesting." They leave thinking, "I felt interesting when I talked to them." And that feeling is what makes them want to see you again. Principle 2, I don't know. 3 words that almost no one has the courage to say. When someone asks your opinion about something you don't understand, the instinct is to pretend, to sound clever, to say something vague that could mean anything. But pretense always shows. The tone feels off. The eyes look for approval. And trust fades instantly. Now picture someone confident enough to simply say, "I don't know." Calmly. Without apology. Without excuses. That honesty changes the entire atmosphere. Because if they're honest about what they don't know, you can probably trust what they do know. Socrates understood this when he said, "I know that I know nothing." It wasn't false humility. It was wisdom. Knowledge begins where arrogance ends. Insecure people need to appear informed about everything. Secure people are at peace admitting they're not. Saying, "I don't know," isn't weakness. It's clarity. It shows strength. And paradoxically, that's what makes others listen when you do speak. Principle 3, that sounds hard. When someone opens up about something painful, stress at work, a breakup, a personal failure, your instinct might be to fix it. "You should try this. When it happened to me, I did that." You mean well, but what they hear isn't empathy. It's judgment. Instead, just say, "That sounds hard." You're not trying to solve it. You're not minimizing their pain. You're acknowledging it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Most people do the opposite. They rush to fix others while excusing their own flaws. But real strength is gentle. When you say, "That sounds hard," you give someone permission to feel without defending it. And in that space, people start to heal. Not because you gave advice, but because you offered presence. They don't need your solution. They need your stillness. Principle 4, the power of silence. This is the hardest one, and the most misunderstood. Most people fear silence. The moment there's a pause in conversation, they panic. They fill it with meaningless words, random stories, nervous laughter. They believe silence is failure. But silence is strength. Watch someone who's comfortable with it. In a group, they speak rarely. And when they do, everyone listens, because their silence before speaking signals that what's coming next matters. They don't rush to fill the air. They let silence do the work. Seneca once said, "Silence is a lesson learned through many sufferings." Those who have faced themselves no longer fear quiet. They've realized that silence isn't empty. It's full of attention, full of power. When you stop running from silence, you stop running from yourself. You listen better. Think clearer. And your words begin to carry weight. You no longer speak to fill space. You speak to deliver meaning. And when you master this, people lean in before you even open your mouth. Principle 5, I appreciate you. 3 words, but they hit deeper than thank you. Thank you is transactional. It recognizes an action. You helped me move. You fixed my problem. I appreciate you recognizes the person, not the task. It says, I see who you are. When you tell someone, I appreciate you, you're acknowledging their character, not their usefulness. And that changes everything. Marcus Aurelius began each morning reflecting on the people around him. Grateful not for what they did, but for the kind of humans they were. He knew that recognizing virtue is what keeps our own virtue alive. Use this phrase sparingly, but sincerely. When someone shows consistency, loyalty, or kindness, that's when it matters. Recognition like that builds a kind of bond no transaction ever could. In a world that values productivity over humanity, being the person who truly sees others is revolutionary. Principle 6, no. The hardest word to say. And the most liberating. People ask for your time, your energy, your attention. And even when you don't want to, you say yes, out of guilt, habit, or fear of disappointing them. But every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you silently say no to what does, your peace, your focus, your growth. Epictetus wrote, first learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. Every yes has a cost. If your yes means everything, it means nothing. Watch someone who has learned to say no. They pause. They consider. And if the answer is no, they simply say it, without apology, without excuses. That clarity commands respect. Because when people know your no is real, your yes becomes powerful. Boundaries don't push people away. They filter them. They repel those who only wanted your availability, and attract those who respect your value. These 6 phrases, curiosity, honesty, validation, silence, appreciation, and boundaries, are not social tricks. They are reflections of character. They don't require performance. They require presence. Be curious enough to listen. Humble enough to say, I don't know. Gentle enough to validate. Calm enough to sit in silence. Aware enough to recognize others. And strong enough to protect your time. The Stoics understood something profound. Attraction isn't about adding more. It's about subtracting what's unnecessary, the noise, the need to impress, the fear of rejection. The moment you stop performing, people finally start paying attention, not just to your words, but to who you are when you speak them. If this message changed how you see communication, leave a comment below. Which of these 6 phrases will you practice in the next 24 hours? And if you want to keep growing in calm, presence, and self-mastery, subscribe to Stoic Power, where you build the habit of protecting your peace and strengthening your mind, one day at a time.